Trust is the bedrock of any relationship, whether it's with a partner, a friend, or a colleague. But how do we truly know who's loyal? And what happens in the brain when that trust is broken? What if on a deeper level, the very chemistry of our brain makes us vulnerable to betrayal, often from the people we least expect? Today, we're going to explore the neuroscience of trust and betrayal and uncover the fascinating insights from Carl Jung and Niccolò Machiavelli that explain why some people are loyal and others turn on us. If you've ever been burned by betrayal, stick around. This video will give you a deeper understanding of who's really loyal and how to spot the signs of deception. At its core, trust is a fundamental human experience that shapes our relationships and social structures. It is built through repeated positive interactions, emotional bonding, and the feeling that someone has our back. But what happens when that trust is broken? The emotional and biological pain of betrayal can feel like a punch to the gut, triggering physical and emotional distress. To understand this better, we'll explore the neuroscience of trust, the brain chemicals involved, and how psychological theories from Carl Jung and Niccolò Machiavelli can shed light on loyalty and betrayal. We'll examine why our brains make us vulnerable to manipulation, how betrayal triggers our deepest emotions, and what this means for our ability to judge loyalty. The neuroscience of trust, how our brain bonds with others. Trust is not just an abstract concept, it's a biological process. At its core, trust involves complex interactions between brain regions and chemicals that dictate how we relate to others and how we form social bonds. Oxytocin, the trust hormone. One of the most important chemicals in the brain's trust system is oxytocin. Often referred to as the love hormone or the bonding hormone, oxytocin plays a key role in forming emotional connections, building trust, and enhancing feelings of empathy. When you share an intimate moment with someone, whether it's a hug, a deep conversation, or a supportive gesture, oxytocin is released, creating feelings of trust and connection. This is why we often associate trust with intimacy. The more oxytocin you produce, the stronger the bond between you and the other person. Oxytocin is responsible for the warm feelings you get when you're around someone you trust, and it's a vital component in the development of loyalty. The role of the prefrontal cortex, rationalizing trust. The prefrontal cortex, PFC, is involved in decision-making, planning, and controlling emotions. When it comes to trust, the PFC helps you assess whether someone deserves your trust by weighing the risks and benefits of that relationship. In a sense, your PFC is your logical filter for whether someone is trustworthy or not. But here's the kicker: the PFC doesn't always win the battle. Emotional decision-making, driven by areas like the amygdala, can sometimes override rational thought. This is why we might trust someone instinctively or emotionally, even when logic tells us they might not be trustworthy. The neuroscience of betrayal, how your brain reacts to deception. Betrayal activates a series of brain regions that trigger a powerful emotional response, often creating feelings of intense pain, fear, and disillusionment. The amygdala and emotional pain. The amygdala is the brain's emotional center, responsible for processing fear and emotional responses. When you experience betrayal, whether it's from a partner, a friend, or a colleague, the amygdala is activated, triggering emotional distress. Interestingly, neuroscientific studies have shown that the pain caused by betrayal is not just emotional but also physical. In fact, the pain of betrayal can activate the same neural pathways as physical pain, which is why betrayal often feels like a personal attack. Cortisol and stress response. Betrayal also increases the release of cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol is responsible for the fight or flight response, heightening your stress levels when you're faced with danger or emotional turmoil. When trust is broken, cortisol floods your system, making it difficult to think clearly and rationally. This explains why betrayal can lead to feelings of anxiety, confusion, and a sense of urgency. In the aftermath of betrayal, your brain is flooded with stress chemicals, impairing your judgment and making it harder to assess future relationships clearly. Carl Jung's idea of the shadow offers a powerful way to understand how trust and betrayal work. The shadow is made up of parts of ourselves that are hidden or pushed aside from our conscious mind. These are the traits, feelings, or desires we find uncomfortable or shameful. We often refuse to look at these parts because admitting they exist makes us feel weak or vulnerable. But even if we don't see them, these parts still shape our actions and reactions. For example, someone might hide feelings of jealousy or anger because they don't want others to see these sides of themselves. These hidden feelings can influence how they behave around others. They might act friendly on the surface but secretly feel distrustful or resentful. Over time, these unacknowledged feelings can cause problems in relationships. If someone keeps a grudge or suppresses anger, it might burst out unexpectedly, leading to betrayals or broken trust. In summary, the shadow keeps many unconscious parts of us hidden. These parts can secretly steer how we trust and when we betray. Recognizing and accepting the shadow is a step toward healthier relationships. It helps us see ourselves more clearly and prevent unintentional betrayals. This understanding shows why trust and betrayal are complex, often driven by hidden truths we refuse to admit. In terms of loyalty, Jung would argue that true loyalty requires both individuals to be aware of their shadow sides and the deeper psychological forces at play in their relationship. When we fail to confront our own shadows, we might be blind to the traits in others that could lead to betrayal. Machiavelli's perspective, loyalty and power dynamics. In contrast to Jung's psychological approach, Niccolò Machiavelli offers a more strategic view on loyalty, trust, and betrayal. Machiavelli's famous work, The Prince, is all about how power dynamics work in relationships, both personal and political. He believed that loyalty, while essential, is ultimately fluid and can be manipulated for self-interest. Machiavellian loyalty. Machiavelli argued that loyalty is often a means to an end rather than a virtue. In his worldview, loyalty is shaped by strategic calculation, not emotional bonds. A true Machiavellian understands that loyalty can be bought, earned, or manipulated depending on the circumstances. For Machiavelli, trust is instrumental, meaning that we trust others when it serves our interests, and we're willing to betray that trust when it no longer benefits us. This realpolitik approach to relationships underscores the idea that trust can often be a transaction, something that shifts and changes depending on how it serves power dynamics. Betrayal as strategy. From a Machiavellian standpoint, betrayal is not inherently wrong, but rather a tool that can be used to achieve greater dominance or self-preservation. In some cases, betrayal might even be viewed as a necessary evil in achieving one's goals. Trust is a deeply ingrained part of human nature, governed by a complex mix of neurochemicals like oxytocin and cortisol, and influenced by psychological theories from Jung and Machiavelli. The brain forms emotional bonds through oxytocin but can also be shattered by betrayal, triggering a physical and emotional response. Betrayal activates our amygdala, creating a strong emotional pain that can feel just like physical hurt. Understanding the dynamics of loyalty, trust, and betrayal through both neuroscience and psychology helps us recognize patterns in relationships and avoid falling into toxic or manipulative situations. Whether we're dealing with loyalty driven by emotional connection, the way we process trust in the brain has lasting implications for the way we navigate human interactions. If you found this exploration of the neuroscience of trust and betrayal insightful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might benefit from understanding the deeper forces behind loyalty. Let's continue diving into the psychological and biological mechanisms that shape our relationships. Until next time, remember, trust is powerful, but betrayal is an opportunity for growth and self-awareness.